Good morning to you, friends. Hope you are doing well. And welcome on in to a Thursday. It is February 26th of 2026. And appreciate you being here. By the way, your rain, occasional rain throughout the day. High of 61, feeling like 58. You know how hard it was, Joan Jones, to get out of bed with all of that nice, calming sound of rain out my window?
I know.
Man, it is really hard to get out of bed, from underneath the covers and, because the rain just puts me right to sleep.
Yep.
The good news, though, Joan, is that as a man of a certain age, I hear rain and I have to go to the bathroom. So there's that, too.
You're right out of bed as soon as you wake up.
Exactly. Yeah. Hey, Joan, who is Pat Ho?
Pat Ho is, it's a new term. And if you don't know, Dan, then you're not in the know.
Listen. Apparently, Pat Ho maybe needs some penicillin to clean up all of that, Ho stuff. Anyway, moving right along. Can we talk really quickly about this whole Cuban thing?
Yeah.
So apparently, from what I understand, Cuba killed 4 Americans. Is that from what I understand?
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So when does the bombing start?
Yeah.
That's what I want to know. When do we start bombing the hell out of Cuba? Now, apparently, you explained the story to me, Joan. You just did the story, but apparently they thought that our Americans were what, like drug runners or what?
So there were 10 people on this speedboat, and whether they were in the territorial waters of Cuba or not, or if they were on the international side, still remains to be seen, and that's what's being investigated now. But these 10 people got into a firefight with the Cuban Coast Guard. And the early reports are saying that these people on the speedboat started the firefight, and 4 of them ended up dead. And the other 6 were injured, and they've all been taken into custody in Cuba. So, now comes the investigation.
Right.
Cuba is saying that they were there for like a terrorist operation. The U.S. says, hey, listen, people have been taking boats, and this boat, by the way, was stolen, have been taking speedboats to Cuba and picking up people on the shores to escape Cuba for years. This is not a new operation. These let's not make it something more.
Yeah, you're right. These Americans are people, as you just said. They get in these speedboats, and you've got the Cuban defectors, of course.
Yeah.
And they're trying to, as the story goes, help people defect. But Cuba, that their story is that we're firing on their Coast Guard. By the way, Secretary of State Marco Rubio does not buy that at all.
So this morning, we were made aware by Cuban authorities of an incident off the coast of Cuba. We immediately began to look into it. As it stands now, the Department of Homeland Security, the Coast Guard, others are involved. The majority of the information we still possess is what Cuban authorities are providing both the public and the U.S. government. We have our embassy on the ground in Havana working this as we speak, asking for access to the people that were on those vessels, if they were American citizens or permanent residents. According to the Cuban regime, the boat was registered in Florida. We're tracking that down. We will know shortly, and we will know quickly, many more facts about this incident than we know right now. The majority of the facts Cubans.
I hope.
Happening.
I hope that's not our computer.
Here, I can play the most important thing of what he said.
Okay.
In that.
Yes.
We're going to find out. We're not going to base our conclusions on what they've told us. And I'm very, very confident that we will know the full story of what happened here, and we will know it soon. And then, we'll respond appropriately based on what that information tells us.
Yeah, the New York Post, Cuba's Ministry of the Interior, announcing the deadly altercation in a post on social media, declaring it was protecting its territorial waters when its border troops killed at least 4 and wounded 6 who were aboard a Florida-registered boat that had entered Cuban waters. Marco Rubio downplaying Cuba's version of the events, saying the U.S. would find its own information on this, saying we're not going to base our conclusions on what they told us. He said, adding, we'll respond appropriately based on what our information tells us. Vice President J.D. Vance also saying that the Trump administration is working to learn more. Hopefully, they say, this is what J.D. Vance said, hopefully it's not as bad as we fear it could be, but I can't say more because I just don't know more. J.D. Vance telling reporters during an event at the White House, Cuba's government, saying that on Wednesday morning, the crew on the speedboat opened fire on the Cuban personnel, resulting in the injury of the commander of the Cuban vessel. Cuban border guards returned fire, they say. 4 aggressors on the foreign vessel were killed. 6 were injured, as we've been saying. The injured individuals were evacuated and received medical assistance, the Interior Ministry said. So what you're saying, Joan, is so does Cuba have 6 of our people?
They do.
Are they considered, they're not considered hostages, though? Do we know?
No, not at this point, because Cuba is claiming that that they did something wrong and they took them into custody. So, you know what, they're going to get to the bottom of this. And I think Cuba has like nothing to stand on. And Marco Rubio has an axe to grind because his family is from Cuba.
Oh, his family fled Cuba.
Yeah.
And he's had it in for Cuba for years.
So they better watch themselves.
I think Marco Rubio, you know what I think Marco Rubio is saying right now? Please, Cuba, go ahead, make my day.
Yeah, make my day.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, yeah, I don't know. The really interesting story, though, I saw that and I thought, okay, well, let's see how this plays out. And, of course, Donald Trump has been, talking about Cuba for quite some time. So I'm sure that everyone understands how dicey this could be. I'm sure that everybody understands that this could turn really bad really fast. And so
for Cuba.
Well, yeah, obviously for Cuba. I mean, 4 Americans being killed. Now, that being said, if this is what I'll go ahead and say it because it's obvious. These 4 Americans that were killed and the 10 total in the boat, if that is what they were doing, which is helping people flee Cuba, I love what they're doing, but they know that is a dangerous job. They know that they are putting themselves in danger. So I think that for, those people, the remaining 6, I just hope that Cuba plays this smart. Again, I love what they were doing, and I'm not victim blaming, but what I am saying is what they were doing is incredibly dangerous. To be honest with you, Joan, you're right. This kind of thing has been going on for years. I'm surprised it hasn't happened before.
Oh, yeah.
So is it just recently now? I'll try to get an expert on with this. Is it just now that we're seeing Cuba be more aggressive and trying to get these folks that are helping people, escape Cuba? Is it now that they're getting more aggressive? Or is this just the first time that they've been able to catch some of these folks, apparently, allegedly in the act, and this is the first time that they have decided to engage? So there's a lot that we don't know, but we'll have to see how this whole thing plays out. Marco Rubio, he is on the case. J.D. Vance is on the case. I guarantee you Donald Trump is going to have something to say about this as well. It is 5:15 on Super Talk 99.7, and Joan's got somebody's got the traffic right now at 5:15. Who is it, Joan, or
yeah,
is it?
I'll take it.
All right, Joan, please go.
Okay, so we've got just a minor delay this morning if you're traveling on 65 heading the northbound lanes. Starts around the Goodlettsville area and heads up for a couple of miles toward White House. Looks like that may just be a volume delay. Things are okay on 40 and 24. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Joan. It is 5:15. Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. By the way, you can always watch us on YouTube. You can watch us on Facebook. You can watch us on X and Rumble and all the other places. And you can also download our podcasts anytime, and you can listen to us or watch us anytime you want. I always say the 5 o'clock hour is one of my favorite hours of the 4. Basically,
because it's out of control.
Sometimes it's out of control.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's also more subdued. By the way, you know what I'm really looking forward to today, Joan? At 6:35, I'm going to speak to a reporter. I think she's from the Hill. But there's word now that the battle with the drug cartels could be moving from, south of the border in Mexico into Southern California.
Makes total sense.
It does make total sense.
Yep.
So we're going to talk about that. We also have a lot of, State of the Union reaction. Do you think the Democrats know that they screwed up big time? Do you think that they've got regret with not pulling Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib aside and say, shut the hell up?
Do you know how earlier this week the BAFTAs happened and that guy with Tourette syndrome kept on yelling things?
Yes.
Megyn Kelly says that Ilhan Omar is that guy.
They've got their own version of Tourette's, right? It's like, would it be like Trumpettes?
Yeah, except Trumpettes make me think that they're
like pastries.
No, I was thinking that maybe they're like the Rockettes.
Oh, very good. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
because it's New York and all.
Anyway, so as a matter of fact, Ilhan Omar has been out there talking, and she has been asked if she regrets what she did. And I know that, Joan, you will be shocked at her answer, which the answer to that is no. So we'll talk. We've got a lot of stuff. DHS continues to be a train wreck. We're going to talk about that. And I got to tell you, the not DHS, DCS, Department of Children's Services in Tennessee. Word has come out now. This was earlier in the week, and there've been some reaction to this. I've been covering this story for a long time about the Department of Children's Services in the state of Tennessee, where we have kids, and this is so heartbreaking because we have kids whose children, these kids, their parents have died, or their parents are just not fit parents, and they end up, the state takes custody of them, and they're basically staying or living in offices, in DCS offices. How horrible is that? So we have a lack of, and we may actually take calls on this, we have a lack of foster parents in the state of Tennessee. On top of that, we have a Department of Children's Services who clearly are not able to care for these kids. There's been a new report that was released earlier this week, and it shows that some of these kids, Joan and Sam, some of these kids are in these DCS offices, and they're taking meth.
Which is you told me that this morning, and I'm still aghast over that. Like, what?
They're taking meth. There was also an episode where an older kid in DCS custody, if you will, was trafficking a younger kid. Horrifying.
Sickening.
And so you know what DCS did? And I'm going to get into all the details on this because there's a lot to this segment. So you know what DCS did? They kind of slapped the kids on the wrist and just put them right back in there with the general population of kids that is in DCS custody.
I might be able to get you an expert for tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah, if you can, that'd be great. I'll tell the story today. But
you can't make fun of me when you're on the phone with her.
Why would I make fun of you?
Well, because it's my mom.
Oh, is it your mom?
Yeah, she worked for DCS when she was in law school, and she has worked with them pretty much her entire career in some capacity.
Why can't you get her for me today?
Because I have to tell her she needs to be up earlier. She's old.
How old is your mom?
Excuse me?
63.
63.
Hey, Joan, how old are you? How old are you, Joan?
Not 63.
But
I'm younger, but I still think that 63 is not old.
You know what, Sam? Them's fighting words. I'm 5 years away from being 63. And, today's 63, Joan. Just go with me here on this because I've noticed something. And I've said this before, and I'm the knock on wood. But when my dad was 58, he had already had I think at least one heart. I know at least one heart attack, maybe two.
Yeah.
I think today's 58, 59, 61-year-old is a lot different than, the older people of yesteryear.
I agree.
With no offense to your mom, because your mom, I bet your mom is very, young at heart and spirit and mind and body as well.
She had to raise me, so that took some years off her life.
Amen.
We'll call those Sam mom years. Because 63 in Sam mom years is like 75. I'd be willing to bet.
No, it's pretty accurate.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, because I remember when I was younger, and Sam, how old are you? You're 30, right?
29.
29. So,
creeping up there.
I remember, let me tell you something. When you're my age, that creeping up there, time flies by really fast.
So fast.
Man, I got to tell you. But I think people these days are younger, minded and also younger in, age, body, spirit, that whole thing. And I don't know why that is. Is it because, Joan, that our generation, me and Joan's generation, I think we got the news pretty early that smoking was bad.
Yeah.
I think that we got the word pretty early that eating really badly was bad for your heart, and having a balanced diet was actually really good. I don't drink that much. And really, honestly, I don't think I've had one drink since New Year's Eve. So
really? Wow.
Yeah, I've pretty much stopped drinking, and I'm exercising. And I think a lot of people, Joan, our age, look at you. You play golf almost every day when you can. So, I mean, I think that the older generation these days is a lot different than the generations of years past.
I think so, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm about, 70 pounds, 80 pounds lighter than I was when I was in my 30s. There's that as well.
Really? That much?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I could even go back probably 20 years.
Wow.
And talk about how I was, 230, 240 pounds, and I weighed in this morning about 158, trying to get back down to 155. I'm one good flu away from being where I want to be at 155.
That's not how you lose weight, and you know it.
It is.
It works. It's
Listen,
a natural process.
Joan, when you've got Eye of the Tiger and you're trying to get back down to 155, I'll do anything. I need a good food poisoning is what I need. Whatever, moving right along. All right, it is 5:23. So I'm going to play a little bit of Ilhan Omar. So the fallout continues, of course, Donald Trump's State of the Union address. And one of the things that a lot of people are talking about is, how did the president's speech land? When the president is speaking, right? You've seen this, Joan, a million times. I know that I have. Where when the president is speaking and the networks will have like a real-time reaction graph. You've seen this? And so the president says a particular thing, and then you've got a bunch of various people of different political ideologies reacting to it. So Fox News had one of these real-time election or reaction graphs. And when the president talked about Minnesota fraud,
there's been no more stunning example than Minnesota, where members of the Somali community have pillaged an estimated $19 billion from the American taxpayer. Oh, we have all the information. And in actuality, the number is much higher than that. And California, Massachusetts, Maine, and many other states are even worse. This is the kind of corruption that shreds the fabric of a nation, and we are working on it like you wouldn't believe.
And you got, of course, you hear Ilhan Omar screaming in the background.
So tonight, although started 4 months ago, I am officially announcing the war on fraud to be led by our great Vice President J.D. Vance.
So as President Trump, because I can tell you when I watched that, my blood, of course, started boiling because it reminded me of that story, which I find so abhorrent, all of that Somali-driven fraud in Minnesota. So the story from Fox News, the graph shows mixed reactions from the panel. This is how they say it. The panel, assembled by polling group Maslansky and Partners and comprising of 29 Democrats, 30 independents, and 41 Republicans, gave real-time reactions as Donald Trump spoke about Somali fraud. The reactions were displayed on a line graph where high values represented positive reactions and low values indicated negative reactions. Donald Trump, talking about the corruption, was plundering America and said the most stunning example was in Minnesota, where welfare fraud has been a focal point, and a child nutrition program scheme in particular led to dozens of prosecutions under the Biden administration. A line graph showing Republican voters were receptive as Donald Trump spoke. Democrat voters had a negative reaction, and independents were neutral. You know, I am forever dismayed by these independents. Like, remember that one day, Joan, that I just went off on independents?
I think I do.
Like, who the hell are these people? And why don't they ever have any kind of a reaction to the bad things that are happening in this country because of Democrats? Right? So no big shock with the Democrats, right, having a negative reaction. Republicans frustrated with the lack of law and order in our country. Democrats hate Donald Trump, so anything that Donald Trump says is, for the Democrats, they're going to go opposite of what he says. So they're totally cool with all of the fraud. They're totally cool with these, frankly, Somali pirates plundering America. I don't understand the independents remaining neutral on this, but okay, whatever. We all remember the moment when Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib started screaming at the president, right?
They're blocking the removal of these people out of our country, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
Now, we all know that was a trap. We all know that. I think, do you know what, Joan? I believe that we even talked about this during our pre-State of the Union discussion there at the State of the Union, where we talked about Donald Trump and will he, I think we did. I don't know if it was on the air or off the air, but I know that this has been a topic of conversation. Did the Democrats learn? That's right, we did. We talked about it because we talked about, will the Democrats be able to get in touch with their human side and be able to stand for these incredible American stories where, like last year, as we talked about yesterday, they didn't stand up for an 11-year-old with cancer. This year, they wouldn't stand for, the families of victims who had died at the hands of violence because of their soft on crime policies, right? So we did talk about We knew going in that Donald Trump was going to do this. I mean, it was obvious what he was going to do. Yet the Democrats took the bait. Thank you, Ilhan Omar. Thank you, Rashida Tlaib. So Ilhan Omar, she's on with Wolf Blitzer yesterday, and, she was not repentant because somebody like Ilhan Omar cannot be repentant. They're more repugnant, to be perfectly honest. Even her own leader, Hakeem Jeffries, said, do not interrupt the president. But on CNN, she made no apologies.
Should you have just boycotted the address? And do you think you violated the guidelines set out by your own leader?
No, I think it was really unavoidable. The president talked about protecting Americans, and I just had to remind him that his administration was responsible for killing 2 of my constituents. I
mean, listen, again, not to belabor the point, but these people would not stand to honor the mother of Irina Zarutska, the Ukrainian woman killed by a man released by Democrats on a train in Charlotte, North Carolina. We all know the story. We were all horrified by that story. Now, Renee Good and Alex Preddy put themselves in a dangerous position by going after law enforcement in Minnesota, goading law enforcement, provoking law enforcement. Irina was just sitting on a train and was killed by that scumbag released because of their soft on crime policies championed by Democrats. So the question is, does she, Ilhan Omar, does she actually have any regrets?
I do not. And I think many people look at that moment when the president says it is our responsibility to protect Americans. And he does not acknowledge the fact that 2 Americans, 2 of my constituents, 2 of our neighbors were killed. And it was important for me to just remind.
You know what's interesting? This is the same party that refuses to say the name Laken Riley.
The American people that the president and his administration was responsible for killing 2 American citizens.
So now, apparently, Joan, there is another story that Sam's going to tell us about, something about an illegal alien taking out an American.
Yeah, Harris County, Texas, yesterday, Manuel Neri Mendoza was arrested for murder and is accused of running a red light and killing a 42-year-old grandmother with her 3-year-old grandchild in the back seat who survived the crash with minor injuries. Mendoza has an immigration detainer hold and has 2 prior DWI convictions. So you had 2 other opportunities to get him out of the country. And now a girl who I can only assume is maybe in her late teens, early 20s, is without her mother while raising a 3-year-old.
That is So incredibly sad. Do you think, Joan, you think the Democrats will acknowledge that situation in Harris County, which is Houston?
No. No, I do not.
Is Houston a sanctuary city? Can you look that up for me? I know that Texas is not a sanctuary state, but I'm wondering if Houston is Harris County, whatever, is a sanctuary city.
No.
No. So I wonder why they were unable then to pick this guy up. All right, what were you going to say, Joan?
So I just found something that I just think is so interesting. You remember when back in 2009, Joe Wilson, the GOP congressman, shouted liar.
You lie.
Yeah.
Yep.
So here is how the press handled this maybe the day after.
South Carolina Congressman Joe Wilson had a lot of explaining to do a day after he shattered the decorum of the House chamber during the president's speech.
He shattered the decorum.
The reforms I'm proposing would not apply to those who are here illegally.
I
And
remember
Nancy
that.
Pelosi is looking like, who said that?
She's got her sucking on a lemon look, does she?
Yeah, she looks so mad. So, he got dragged.
Oh, he got roasted.
Yes. Obama, of course, he said, I'm a big believer that we all make mistakes. And he apologized quickly and without equivocation. And I'm appreciative of that. They just dragged him. And in the meantime, Ilhan Omar is practically throwing up on the floor with her gaggle
vomiting.
of words.
Yeah.
You spare us all. Just spare us all.
Well, listen, as I'm playing this audio, she is, as I said, unrepentant. She's actually repugnant. Can you look up repugnant? I think I'm using that right. We do have some numbers, by the way, Joan, on what people thought of the president's speech. These numbers sound pretty good to me. 60, and by the way, you're talking about Nancy Pelosi, Joan?
Yeah.
The same Nancy Pelosi that ripped Donald Trump's State of the Union. Remember that a couple of years ago?
I do remember. Also, a lack of decorum.
You know what? Nancy Pelosi is a walking lack of decorum. 64% said they reacted very or somewhat positively to the speech overall. 36% they had a very positive reaction to Donald Trump's speech. 38% had a negative reaction. But, when you look at 38% having a negative reaction, roughly 50% of the American people are Democrats.
Yeah.
So obviously he did reach some moderate Democrats. And by the way, this was a CNN poll.
Oh, wow, that says a lot.
Yeah. And we touched on some of this yesterday. 65% saying that they had confidence in Donald Trump's ability to provide real leadership for the country. So a lot of positives in the polling for the president. Washington Examiner says this. 40% said they had no real confidence in Donald Trump's ability to manage the cost of living, while 60% said they had a lot of confidence or some confidence in Trump's ability to make the cost of living more affordable. The poll also showing 62% approving of Donald Trump's proposed immigration policies. So I think overall, even some Donald Trump haters saw the president, listened to the president, knowing what the Biden administration did to America, and realizing still, you know what? The Trump administration, I don't believe, Dan speaking here, I don't believe that all is lost for the midterm elections. I do have some receipts on that. I'll talk about that coming up after the news at 6 o'clock. Final question from Wolf Blitzer to Ilhan Omar. Do you have any regrets?
Did you do the right thing by actually showing up there?
I brought 4 Minnesotans as guests for the Minnesota delegation. It was important for us to be there, to bear witness, to hold the space for our constituents that have lived through an occupation from federal law enforcement, that have been terrorized, that have seen our neighbors been killed and traumatized in so many ways. And so, no, I think it was really important for my constituents to see me there. It was really important to my constituents to hear that I was reminding the president that Renee Good and Alex Preddy were killed under this administration.
All right. So there you go. I wonder.
Unrepentant.
Unrepentant. Did you look up repugnant?
I did. Repugnant means extremely distasteful or unacceptable.
Okay. I was using it right for a change.
Congratulations.
I know,
I'm really
right?
proud of you.
Dan, the way you like your steak cooked is repugnant.
By the way, speaking of not repugnant, so just staying on the Somali fraud going on in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. Did you see what happened yesterday? So J.D. Vance and Dr. Oz, because, J.D. Vance is now the fraud czar.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So J.D. Vance, who I really, really, really like J.D. Vance. He was talking about it. Vice President J.D. Vance and Dr. Oz halting $250 million in federal Medicaid payments to Tim Walz's Minnesota until the fraud stops once and for all.
Administration cracking down on the people and the organizations that are defrauding Americans. So we're announcing today that we have decided to temporarily halt certain amounts of Medicaid funding that are going to the state of Minnesota in order to ensure that the state of Minnesota takes its obligations seriously to be good stewards of the American people's tax money. Now,
that's all we're asking, isn't it, Joan? We just want these states to be good stewards of the money that we are forced to give or robbed of by the federal government.
What is this going to mean? What this means is that, first of all, the providers on the ground in Minnesota have actually already been paid. The state has paid those providers the money. What we're doing is we are stopping the federal payments that will go to the state government until the state government takes its obligations seriously to stop the fraud that's being perpetrated against the American taxpayer. There are a few different ways that we're doing that. There are a few different affirmative actions that we're taking today. Dr. Oz is going to talk about those, but let me talk a little bit about the spirit of this and why we're doing it.
We're doing it because the Somalis are a bunch of pirates and they're stealing taxpayers' dollars.
One of the examples of fraud that we've seen in Minnesota that we verified that is just awful is that a program that existed to ensure that autistic children had access to some after-school services has made a number of people rich.
Yeah, and a lot of them are Somalis. Now, let's go back into Joan, the way back machine, where Bill Clinton, this just shows you how the Democrat Party has changed. When Bill Clinton was talking about illegal immigration and fraud and about how the American people were getting ripped off.
It is wrong and ultimately self-defeating for a nation of immigrants to permit the kind of abuse of our immigration laws we have seen in recent years, and we must do more to stop it.
That audio and video, it kind of went viral, if you will, yesterday because it does show the difference between Democrats of 95 and the Democrats of today.
Everybody's standing, too, and applauding.
And everybody's standing and applauding. 1995. And now here we have the Democrats yelling back at the president during this year's State of the Union, basically being their repugnant selves and not accepting responsibility for the immigration or the fraud that they have perpetuated upon Americans.